My name is Jim Fitzpatrick, and I grew up here in the town of Carbonear. If we didn't grow it, we basically had to do without it. So we grew pretty well potatoes, lots of potatoes, lots of turnip, and some carrot, a few parsnip, cabbage, basically the old staples. It's a staple food. Well, each fall we'd have a yearling, a year-old animal, and that's where we'd get enough fresh meat for the winter. Also, we'd salt some of that and get our salt beef. And pretty well everything that we could use, we used. Basically, the only thing that we did need was flour, sugar, and tea. That was about basically it. Because we had pretty well everything else we'd grow here ourselves. We had our own fresh pork, we had our own salt pork, we had our own fresh meat, we had our own eggs, and we had our own milk, our own butter. So there wasn't an awful lot that we'd have hams. Every fall we'd have a pig. We'd get the quarter smoked. Then we'd get the belly and we'd get lots of bacon. The cellar was our refrigerator. And that's where you'd put things to keep them cool out there. Not cold, but keep them cool. That's it. And it was dry and cool. And we had what we used to call a dairy. Here, that's where when we'd get milk, the cows, we had a separator there to separate the cream from the milk. And the milk we used to feed to the animals, the young cows, and then we get the cream and make butter. You know, when I was growing up, neighbors were neighbors then. When the spring of the year, when we turn around and be putting vegetables in the ground, some of the neighbors would come and give us a hand because we had a lot of ground to set out, which wasn't, you know, setting it wasn't too big of a problem once the ground was prepared. The biggest thing was in the fall when you start harvesting. There was one fishing crew that used to fish on the Labrador, and there were 3 or 4 brothers, and then they'd have 3 or 4 more people fishing with them. And when they'd come home from the Labrador, they'd start taking their supplies from the wharf, drop it off at home, and then they'd throw a kettle of fish aboard of the horse and cart and come in here, and they went in the garden and they'd give us a hand to start taking the vegetables out of the ground. And when they were finished in the evening, they'd load up the horse and cart with whatever vegetables we were taking out of the ground that day. So they got their vegetables for the winter. And in the summertime, with hay cutting time, if we had a pile of hay around, the neighbors would come and give us a hand to get it in the barn here. So, and everybody was ready basically to help one another. Every night when we were kids, on the kitchen table, there was a big jug of milk, a tin of molasses, and a loaf of fresh bread on the table. There was no such thing as, we used to call it the baker's bread. That's the stuff you go over. A baker's pog, we used to call it. It was homemade. There was no such thing as going, you had to make it yourself. Well, I think everybody should have a little bit of knowledge, and it's nice maybe to, you know, to be able to grow a few vegetables. You know, my brother, he lives on the old homestead, And every year he's got some vegetables. He grows some potatoes and some turnips and a few beets. He's even after getting brave this year, he's after building a hothouse. So I don't think he's going to start growing bananas yet.